other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other because they are so often separated one from another. When Dr. King said that, at the time the schools were segregated. Travel was difficult for people of color across the United States because they weren't free to stay in hotels and motels. And we know that there were agencies in the government that were literally restricted to them. So that when we look now in 2014, there are many of us who would say, woo, things are so much better now. We have no more problems. And yet, when we look at the data on poverty in America, when we look at the data on crime in America, when we look at the data on incarceration in America, we say, something is still not right. And you know, one of the things that gives me hope every year is when I come to this session and see you. Because I know that it is when students are ready, especially I emphasize students because that means you're ready to study, you're ready to ask questions, and you're ready to get involved. As students, we often live inside of the books and inside of the research and inside of the pages that our wonderful professors have given us. And I hope that you realize that what you walked into is that we want to get beyond the pages, and we want to talk about how you can get involved. So today, we have a wonderful presentation for you, brought to you by the students, staff, and faculty of the Intergroup Dialogue program. Are any of you aware of Intergroup Dialogue? Have any of you ever taken an Intergroup Dialogue session? We have a few. Intergroup Dialogue, or IGR for short, is an opportunity for you to get together in small discussion groups over a period of time and begin to have some of those difficult conversations. What is perhaps different than if you just did it in your dorm room or over a beer or a television. I didn't say that. Is that you work with a facilitator who is trained to help you have those kinds of discussions in an informative yet civil way. So let me begin by introducing the new acting director of the Intergroup Dialogue program from the Communication Department, the Assistant Chair, Dr. Sherry Bowen. Sherry, raise your hand. So, Sherry, yay! Sherry Bowen. We also have staff from IGR, and I will start right here with Steve Sheridan from OPIR, who leads an IGR session on gender. And then we have, I think, Tom Logan, who many of you know, who is the Director of Student Development, and he leads a session on white racial identity. Then we have Dr. Maurice Hall, who I will save his introduction for just a moment. Next to him is Carol Anthony, who is the Associate Director of Peace and Justice, and really the person who has organized this whole Freedom School event. Then on the other side of her is the Director of the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowship, Ms. Jane Morris, and also a professor in the biology department. Carol is doing assisting Tom in the white racial identity course, and working with Dr. Hall in the advanced race, and Jane is doing the race discussion with over here. Not paying any attention to me is Devon Jackson, which he normally does. Doing a race dialogue. And in the very front, trying to hide, is Dr. Bridget Dwyer, who is doing the gender dialogue. And then we have who's not actually a member of IGR yet, but my partner in crime, who has been helping me lead diversity issues on this campus, I'd say for about, we've been doing this for about 30 years? We've been here for 35. Is Dr. Betty Keach from the College of Nursing. So this is the awesome faculty and staff, and then we have some awesome students who I will leave it to Devon to tell us who they are working with us this afternoon.
Hi, everybody. I want to see one nice bright smile just right here. It was a bright smile. It lightened up my day. Not saying you guys didn't. Okay. So I'm Devon. She made that introduction. Today I'm going to be working with some of my Ag Students Association for Change and Transformation. The students that brought you the diversity skit. If you were here in the last 3 or 4 years, we've been doing it for student orientation. It's actually been really successful. And if you want to be a part of that, let me know after this. So we have Gabby here, we have Kenjo, we have Ibrahim, and we have Josh and the one more Brianna on stage to help us with our awkward scenes. So I guess we're going to get started. So
Before we get started, because right now, one of the things about the diversity skit is that you didn't know you were involved, but you were involved, but you were kind of sitting back, kind of passive. And right now, even I'm sure you think those seats feel real good to you. Back is hitting you just in the right way. Well, guess what? The last person I'd like to introduce to you is Dr. Maurice Hall, who is the chair of the communication department. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that he comes to us with a strong theater background, where he was both a performer and a director. And so, and he's very involved in social justice work, and he combines his two interests in a very fun, exciting, and involving way. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Maurice Hall.
Hi, how are you? Y'all gotta give me a better hand than that. After that kind of introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, with apologies to Dr. Boyd for saying that, we are going to have an interactive session, which means that you will not be sitting for much of the session. We will be calling on you randomly for different things, which is part of the fun. So the first thing I'd like to ask you to do, please, is to stand up. Divest yourself of your computers and of your notebooks, etc. And just give yourself a little space. This will not take very long. And just shake yourself. Just shake yourself. Shake it, please, break it. Okay. And do me a favor, please, if you would be so kind as to imagine for a second that you are a ragdoll or a puppet. And so when I give you the signal, that's what I want you to do. When I give you the signal, I want you to just flop. Okay? Now hit your head on the sheets. Okay, get ready. I'm going to at the count of 3. 1, 2, yeah? Y'all have to flop. Everybody gonna flop. It's like twerking. Everybody's gonna flop. Okay. Moving on. 1, 2, 3, and flop. Okay, and I'm going to imagine, stay there. Imagine that you have a string coming from the top of your head. I'm going to count you and let the string slowly pull you up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep coming up. 5, 6, 7, 8. There's strings on your arms. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Fully up. You're going to go 13, 14, and hold. Okay. We're going to do one more exercise. Quick one, because we don't have much time. I want you to say this word with me. Well, first of all, let's do the vowels. A-E-I-O, A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U. Okay, we're going to put a consonant in front of it. We're going to go me, me, my, mo, mu. 1, 2, 3.
Me, me, my, mo, mu.
Give me more energy. Me, me, my, mo, mu.
Me, me, my, mo, mu.
All right, I want you to turn to your neighbor, and I want you using those words to speak to them angrily. Me, my, mo, mu. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. One last time, I want you to use this time the consonant sound T, but this time I want you to speak to them loudly. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I love it. Give it to me one more time. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I know you're going to think we're very strange and some of you are going to run fleeing from IGR, but that's not what we do. Okay, check it out. What we're going to do for the next few moments is we are going to present you with some scenarios. And we want you to watch those scenarios very carefully. Because we want you to think when you watch the scenarios, and they are drawn from life on campus. So all of these are actual scenes that took place on the campus of Villanova University for the past 2 years that the act players are going to portray for us. So when you watch them, we want you to look at it and think, do I intervene in some way? Or can I be an ally in some way? And we'll talk about what that means. Do we intervene in some way, or can I be an ally in some way? And we'll talk about what that means in a little. Before I do that, though, I want you to do one last thing for me. I want you to say this word very quietly. Very quietly. Shout. Go. A little louder. Shout. A little louder. Shout. Louder. Shout. Louder. 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 Shout. 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 Me. Shout. More. Shout. Less time. Shout. Oh, I love it. Sit down, please. After that, no one's going to make themselves again because they're going to think the people in communication are crazy. I need 2 volunteers, and here is where we're going to get into the kind of conversation that's a little bit awkward if you've never done this before. I need 2 white people. 2 people who identify as white as volunteers. If you'd be so kind as to raise your hands. There was, 1, 2, come forth. Thank you very much.
With your school bag. Come with your school bag. Come with your school bag. Come with your bag. No, keep. Okay. So, hello again. So I want to introduce you to the scene or put you in the setting at least. So right now, please have a seat. So what we're doing is this right now is an ACS class. And the storyline is they're going over one of the books that they're reading, and the professor is just ending class. Okay? Everybody got that? ACS class, they're going over or ending the idea of a book they're going to read, and they're at the ending of the class.
All right, class. So next week we're going to be starting the adventure of the popularity thing. And there's some language that you all might be uncomfortable with. So let's take the last few minutes of class to discuss how we're going to approach this. The word nigger is used a lot in reference to a black character named Jim. He's often referred to as, quote, nigger Jim, end quote. The language is appropriate for the time period of the book, so we can say it aloud in class if you're comfortable with it. But if not, that's totally fine too. Is everyone all right with that? Isaiah, you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
Yes, Ken.
I think it's all right to say nigger because he's the black president, and we're not in a racial society.
Okay. Everyone have a good weekend? I'll see you on Monday.
Hey, Professor, how you doing?
Good, Isaiah. How are you?
I'm good. So you know how we talked about saying the word nigger in class? I don't know if I'm cool with that.
But you were just comfortable with it a minute ago.
Yeah, I mean, we were in front of people, so it's kind of, I didn't want to, like, disrupt the class, but I don't really think that'd be cool to use, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the censorship issue.
Yeah.
I don't think we should just change words to make everybody else feel better. But are we really going to be able to engage the text fully if we can't be comfortable using the language of that time period?
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, we shouldn't really be afraid of words. But I mean, it's one thing if we actually say the word, but it's different when you're actually like using it in a context, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's the lesser of 2 evils, right? I mean, as much as you want to talk about race and racism, let's use the word to help white students, understand the pain of black folks. We're not going to be afraid of words in this classroom.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
Time, please. Okay, like all the actors kind of please. Okay, everyone watching this, first of all, made me do it?
Go.
Go.
You didn't see that break. It was just an illusion.
I remember what it was. Okay. I can't believe the professor said that we're going to be not afraid of words in class. I mean, like, does he understand that the history of the word, it's not just a word, it just means something to my people. It's just, it's a lot to handle. I didn't want to disrupt the whole class, but still I don't want to speak for every black person in the world. It's a tough situation to be in, you know? And,
Yvonne, are you sure now?
Yes, I'm sure now.
Okay. So, what do you see happening in that scene? Anyway, what do you see happening in that scene?
The part that really stood out to me was the fact that the professor like singled out the black man in the class and asked him if he was okay. Because I think that that's like, I don't know, I just think that that's inappropriate.
Why do you think that's inappropriate?
Because you should be asking the class in a whole if they're comfortable with it.
Okay.
Shouldn't single anyone out based on their race. I mean, it could just be possible that like, just because he's a black man doesn't mean he's going to be either A, bothered, B, not bothered. Like, and, like, you know, there could be a white girl in the fact that was bothered by it.
What's your name, sir? Eileen. Does anyone agree or disagree with Eileen? Agree or disagree? Yes.
I agree. I think that's segregation, right? Because you're separating out Isaiah because of his skin.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Eileen, could I ask you to come forward for a moment? Alright, so Eileen, if you think about what you saw in that scene, I want you to think about what you would do differently. So you have three choices. And this is to everyone watching. If you are watching a scene like that, we would like to suggest that there are three responses that you could have. The first response is that you could be an ally. To be an ally is somebody who would turn to the person whom you see as having been offended or having been the butt of something that was prejudicial, and be comforting, be friendly, say words that suggested that you were standing with them. To intervene is more aggressive. To intervene is to actually stop what is going on and to insert yourself into the situation and try to correct it in some way, shape, or form. The third and final piece is to do nothing. So you can be an ally, you can intervene, or you can do nothing. Eileen, follow me, please. Give Eileen a hand. So Eileen, I'd like you to go over here. I'd like you to choose which one you'd like to do. Anyone you want to do is up to you. We're going to run the scene again.
Am I supposed to do what I would actually do in real life?
Yes. Do what you think should be done. We have another chair. We have to sit to. Eileen's going to take the meantime. Okay, and go.
All right, so next week we're going to be starting the Adventures of Popular Fitting. So I'll see the purposes of this. He's often referred to as, quote, Nigger Jim. The language is appropriate for the time period of the book, so we can say it aloud in class if you're comfortable with it. But if not, that's totally fine too. Is it all right with everyone? Isaiah, is it all right with you?
yeah, sorry.
Yes. What's your name again?
Eileen. Why did you just single him out and ask him if it was okay with him? You just asked the whole class. Why did you not ask him individually?
I really just chose a random student that I thought might have an opinion on the topic.
So it's just a coincidence that out of the 5 people here, you chose a black person.
You might admit, but you're right. I should have been more conscious of that. I appreciate you speaking up.
Are you okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so which choice would you say that Eileen made? Was she an ally? Did she intervene? She intervened. And she was an ally also. Would you say that that was effective? Why was it effective?
I think she said something that no one else, but people were afraid to say.
She said something that people were afraid to say. Here's a question. Are there risks to being to intervening in a situation like that? Oh, sorry, yes, sorry.
That's why I asked if it was something I would really do in real life. To be honest, like if it was my professor, I'd be afraid because I think professors have like a certain power over their students because they're like in control of our grades and we don't want to like make them mad. I don't know. I might have done that in real life. I might not have, depending on like what my grades were like in the class. Like if I had just failed the last exam, I probably wouldn't have done that.
Right.
But if I was like tight with the professor, I might be like, yo, what's up? Like why'd you do that? So I'd like to believe that I would really do that, but I don't know. That would happen.
Thank you for your honesty. Let me ask what do you think? Do you think that others of you think you would do that, or would you do something different? Do you think intervention in that way is something that would work? What are the risks?
Well, it's for like avoiding it awkward or like being in conflict with your professor. You would just like kind of play down and be like, I don't understand why you would have picked this. Like, Josh.
What's your name? Danielle?
Yes.
Danielle, come forth. See, nobody's going to talk to you now. All right, Danielle. Eileen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Arlene.
So Danielle has a slightly different approach. Let's see how this works. So we're not going to perhaps go through the whole scene. Maybe let's do the very last few minutes just before Danielle will come.
So we often refer to as intervision in the language is appropriate for the time period we want. So we can say it aloud and fast if you're comfortable with it, but if not, that's totally fine too. Is that all right with everyone? Isaiah, is that all right with you?
I don't understand why you would just ask Isaiah if he was okay with it. If you just ask everyone, I don't understand why. His opinion would be more important than everyone else's.
Oh, I didn't mean to offend anybody. I was just looking for an opinion and I thought Isaiah has an opinion on the topic.
Well, is his opinion more important than not? I guess
It might be relevant in this particular case, but, you know, again, I didn't mean to offend anybody by doing that, but your point is well taken.
I thank
Do
you.
you have an opinion on it?
All right. It's different, similar? What do you think?
I really would go after class. I think like taking things out of the
So you're going after class. What do you think is the benefit of doing after class versus in class?
I mean, interpersonal responsibility, public display, interpersonal grades, interpersonal research, just very strong. I would go personal.
And sort of had a one-on-one with the professor instead of doing it in college.
Yeah, I think it's more respectful.
Okay. Yes. And
I was thinking that, and I do agree that it can be more respectful, but you also have to think about, well, there's two things that brings to mind. Like, one, you're taking the issue and you're hiding it. You're putting it away with no one to see. Second of all, if you're in a one-to-one conversation with the professor, they have all the power in that situation. And they can give you whatever answer they want to give, whether it's an apology or they're going to stand their ground. But nothing's really going to change. But if you say in front of the whole class, you have all these like peers around you who are like, you know, you power in numbers, and it's tough because I do think like coming after class is what most people would think of, but do you get the same result?
right.
That's the problem.
Your hand was up?
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
I know, I've been in some situations though where approaching after class leads to like, yes, maybe you avoided it like in class, but like then it gives the teacher a chance to like, you know, sleep on it and maybe apologize the next day. That's happened before. And then like also like it brings, you know how like sometimes you say things out loud that you don't always mean, and then you like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that out loud, like in front of these people. And so like I think a more personal interaction with the teacher would have allowed for potential good things to happen. Maybe the next day, maybe a little too late, and the student was already offended. But I think part of that should be
I agree. Going off that, I think it's like, if you say it in class, you're like trying to make the professor look like a jerk or look like a fool. And I think if you go after class, it's definitely more personal. And it's like, I actually really care about this. I'm not trying to look like someone who's like attacking the professor.
So what I'm hearing from a number of you is that sort of saving the professor's space, right? Not putting the professor on the spot is as important as standing up for the student in some way. and you can accomplish both of them after class. Somebody's hand up here.
I was going to do that when you're so I was gonna say it sounds like an attack, and I was probably more likely to be defensive in that case, and feel as though like it's something personal, as opposed to go to them after class, and it's from a one-on-one kind of conversation, say, oh, by the way, this was sort of offensive, I don't need to like be embarrassed in front of everybody, but I don't know if you guys like realize you said this,
As a professor, are you thinking of the professor may not have realized?
yeah, and also, like, I know in my class, I would never call out my professor in front of anybody, ever. Like, no, but realistically, would anyone ever call out a professor in front of everybody in class? Alright, well, I would not because my professor's scary, but, like, I don't know.
Let's take one or two more. 1, 2, 3.
I get the argument of putting the professor on the spot, but they just put the student on the spot. So I feel like if you're doing that, you're kind of saying which one do you value more, like the professor or the student. And I feel like in this sort of scenario, this probably happens more often to the student. Like they probably in other classes have had similar experiences. So I feel like the more that people like ignore it, the less it'll get addressed. So I feel like I personally feel the most effective manner would be to address it in class, because then maybe that professor will like, think about it and then can have that experience with other teachers and then be like, this was what happened to me today in class, and they'll be like, oh, I had a similar experience, maybe this is how I should react next time.
Just a quick show of hands. How many people have seen a scene like this happen in class? Wow, that's quite a few people.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you raise your hands high, please?
Wow. Thank you very much. Okay, who was, yes?
We used to keep it public, but make it less of an outright attack. We just like suggest that everyone send an individual opinion, like via email or something, so it's tied on that end. And yeah, send a message to the professor that what they did, like what's the best way to go about it, but just maybe a little less, like just, they still get the message.
Okay.
I think it depends on the situation that you're in. If you're in a situation that you may not be the only student affected, I think it's important to say it in public. But if it's something that would have just affected you, I think that's something you can do in private. Because I've been in both situations, and when it was, I knew it was just affecting me, I went personally after class. But I did have one professor, my ACS professor actually, who was like kind of blatantly sexist and also racist. And I didn't really care about the grid at that point, so like, I bring it up in class all the time.
How did the professor react?
Not well. Not well at all. My grades suffered, but I thought the principal was a little more important.
I think it was given context, on that freshman class, a little aggressive. Just in the sense that, it wasn't handled like the most tact it could have been. I feel like the professor's, intentions were in the right place. And maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I don't think it's wrong to assume that the black person in the class would have no problems with using the word that word in class. So while he did call out the one person who was most offended by it, it does make sense. It's not that disagreement is more valuable or not, or less valuable. It's just, it's realistic. But I think it could have been worded more in a way that was so directly like, hey, I
of the moment, people being in front of a faculty person, but given that it's ACS, I would say write about it. Invite the class to write about their reactions and thoughts, to one another. And that gives the professor time too, also to hear other things and reflect on them.
One of the things to draw your attention as people are talking about how would you interact. I want to underscore a couple of things. Number one, we come from the perspective that we are all responsible for community, right? And for the culture of the community here at Villanova. We have at different times a number of students who feel as though they don't belong or are isolated or marginalized in the community. And so one of the driving ideas under this is that whether you choose to be an ally, to intervene, or to do nothing, has an impact collectively on how communities feel and sustain the government. So we want to keep that in mind. I want to ask you to give me a warm thank you to our volunteers up here.
This is probably the hardest thing I do all year. If you ever have a chance to take a class with me, I'm not a racist. Okay, I am a white man, and so that comes with a set of baggage and some assumptions and some biases. So I may I'm not faultless, but I'm not a racist. But I should say, one of the things I do, because I recognize, and I've been through enough of these workshops, is I teach a lot of U.S. history classes and also sports history classes. We talk a lot about African American history, and then a lot of times I do have only one student, two students of color in my classes. So one of the things I do now every semester is we set ground rules at the beginning of the semester, and we do it, and the students will say what their expectations are. And I'll tell them what my expectations are. But one ground rule I always slip in there: if they don't do it, and every semester they never even think about this issue, is they'll talk about that issue of representation. And I will use that example. I'll say, usually I'll pick on a student I know in class, maybe a woman, and say, now Jane is in the class. I know Jane's a woman. I'm not going to ask Jane to speak for every woman in the class, and I hope that we don't all do that as well. So I do lay that out there in one of the first classes that I don't expect people to have to represent their group. I think that helps to remind me, but it helps to remind all the students too, especially again, when we're at a predominantly white university where a lot of our classes oftentimes may only have one or two students of color in that classroom, and we're talking about sensitive issues. So I just kind of want to put that out there.
Thank you. And these issues, we certainly focus on the issue of race, but this script doesn't seem to have been, as Tom suggested, some over suggested, an issue of gender in the class as anything else. All right, second scenario, I'm going to turn it over to Yvonne.
Thank you again. So the second scenario is just two students just in class talking about their group project. Just in class talking about the group project. Got it? Two students leaving class talking about their group project or meeting about their group project.
So, do you want me to talk about what we have to do with this thing?
I don't know. I think I can just do the equations and you can. I'll just send you a picture of it and you can write it down.
Are you sure? I mean, I can work with the stopwatch and stuff and take some of the measurements.
No, honestly, it's fine. I can do it. It's no problem. And
see happening here?
Well, someone with a disability is being treated as lesser, and they're also being misjudged because, as she said that she had a physical disability, and whereas people sometimes take that and turn it into an overall mental and physical disability, and she was being very hurt by the fact that not only was she being treated lesser, but she was also being treated differently for something she didn't even have.
How do you know that you said she's being treated as lesser? How do you know she's being treated as lesser? What do you see in the interaction that tells you that she's not being treated as an equal?
I think the key word was faster for me personally. When she
I can do this faster.
Yeah, I could probably do this faster. And although she's not saying outright without you or saying that you'll probably slow me down, that's definitely strongly implicated when she's saying the words faster.
Yes, agreed?
I feel like the first time she said it, she might have been like thinking that she had a disability, that she couldn't do something, was trying to make it easier, and like that might be acceptable. But then when she kept reiterating it, when she was saying, "No, I am capable of this," like that's when she should have let go because she doesn't. Like she is completely capable of doing like she should have.
What's your name? I'm sorry?
Tasneem. Tasneem.
Tasneem? Tasneem, come on down if you would, please. Hey, let's stop talking to me. So, you have three choices, Tasneem. You can decide whether you would be an ally. You can decide whether you would intervene, or you can decide whether you would not. So, imagine that you watch the scene just play out. And if you could just take it from just as you were leaving, as you said the last lecture you were leaving, and then we can go from there. And then you can either jump in or you can do whatever action you want. Okay, so we'll just take it from just as you were leaving. Brianna. And that. So why don't we put you probably standing just a little bit off so you're not right there. And Gabby, we can take it from just probably the very last thing you say to the
Yeah, like, don't worry about it. I totally got it.
Are you sure? I mean, let me know if you need anything, but it's your call.
Okay.
Hey, Gabby.
I just noticed you were looking at a group project. Yeah. What class is that? It's for science, bio.
Okay, cool. And you're working with Brianna?
Yeah.
Could we like walk and talk?
Yeah.
I noticed that you had to work on a group project with her, and I remember doing that class project before. I was just thinking maybe you should give Brianna a chance to work with you. It personally, when I saw you talking to her, it kind of personally bothered me that you didn't give her a chance, because she might want to learn a little bit more about the class too. I know that project really helps out with your understanding, and at the same time, I think she probably would be people who will help you. Maybe you'll be able to benefit from her ideas too, and it'll really help your project as well. Maybe you could go back and talk to her and give her a second chance and help both of you.
Yeah. I might have been wrong in that. I didn't think that she was capable of doing part of the work, but I don't know. Part of me feels like it'll be done more accurately and faster, and she just sometimes it's difficult,
I mean, if you could do the project on your own, you could still do it just as well with another person. I mean, you could always, you said you were going to double check it, and you said you were going to just make sure that you got all of your part done. On top of having someone to talk to bounce ideas off of, two minds are better than one.
Okay, let's stop you there. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, what do you think? What did you see? What did you think? Was that, first of all, intervention? Was it an ally? What do you think? See, I told you they will stop talking. Mhm.
And also, when she started to say, like, well, I just thought I could get it done faster, she helped her to realize that, like, she really does need her partner, and that's why it was a good project.
Would you say that the taking her aside was an important part of the intervention, and if so, why?
I think it was because if you were to put her on the spot right in front of her partner, it might make her feel really guilty and
Mhm.
embarrassed about what she did.
Mhm.
And I feel like, I don't know, it might make like the rest of the project just feel very awkward and like
Mhm.
tension at this point.
At the very end, and then, yes.
I think intervening was a good idea, and I think it was a good idea to pull her aside because she guys said it in like Brianna too. Brianna could also feel victimized by the girlfriend's intervening because then she's like, oh, so you feel bad for me
Mhm.
that I use these feelings that you feel really just want to jump in. And also from the projects which are just between group members.
Mhm.
But I think it's a good idea to say something to the other girl, but like not to get personal in the middle of it.
Mhm.
Or to make Brianna feel even more victimized by her feelings.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes?
I think Christine brought up an important point that I was hearing him, is kind of taking away from Brianna by not letting her help with the project. Because like everything that we're assigned is part of learning and is part of education. And so by doing the project herself, Gabby's not giving Brianna a chance to understand the material better.
Okay. Any other comments? Let me turn to Tasneem, Gabby, and Brianna. What do you think about the comments that you've heard so far? And you can answer in any order you want.
Well, I liked all that thing, like, I'm happy that what I was trying to do got across. Also, another thing was, I personally chose to talk to Gabby instead of talking to both of them or just Brianna and comforting her and being the ally, because I wanted Gabby to go back and say sorry, because I think that would be more effective than me coming up and saying I'm sorry. Because I could first be victimizing her and unintentionally doing it, and then second, it kind of fixes something that had gone wrong. So I wanted Gabby to go back and say that she was wrong, rather than me saying you were wrong.
Any other comments from Andrew?
It's not, I heard the word victim a few times. It's not about victimization, it's just about proper uses of language and not terming someone by their social identity category.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes?
I have a question for Brianna. Is that okay?
I'm good.
If that happened to you in a real life situation in a class with a partner, but it was something more not so like waiting you because of your physical disability, would you still feel like compelled to, like if someone was just like, I got it, it's an easy thing to do, would you still feel compelled to like show that you can do it? Like do you feel like you did something to prove almost? Is that something you go through?
I've had it happen. I've had it happen with students and professors. And something to prove, yes, that is true. That's more of a personal thing that I've dealt with throughout my life because I grew up in the chair. But for me, it's more so that I feel guilty that Gabby would be doing all the work. I'm also very much a control freak. So I would want to have a hand in the project as well. It's my grade on the line, not just hers.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Tasneem, thank you very much. All right, Dr. Nance.
Dr. Bowen has a question.
Yes.
Why wouldn't somebody think to ask Brianna how she would do the work or what she is not able to do that the other person could help with? If they could do it together in some way because of the physical disability, how can I help? say that?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Why would someone not direct, instead of going to Gabby, you mean directing the question to Brianna?
Right, like if you were put in this situation, which somebody, asked you, has it happened? What would a student be able to say? Would we be able to say, maybe people need some help in, how do you say that? Right? I think people make assumptions and they don't ask.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure, actually. How would you like to be asked?
That was actually something that I was wondering too, but I wasn't going to bring it up for the purposes of this conversation. But seriously, just ask. You can't ask anything that I haven't heard before. Trust me. I've been asked if I sleep in my wheelchair. If any of you think that, no, I do have a bed in my dorm room. I don't sleep in the chair. So literally, I've been asked everything on the planet. You can't offend me. You can't hurt me. No.
Any other responses to this?
Just along the same lines, I'm in the school of nursing, so we're kind of taught more so to ask what they can do before just assuming. So you always ask, do you need help doing anything, or what can you do, and is there anything I can do to help, rather than I'm just going to do this for you. So that's how we were taught in freshman year, as like one of the first ways to do it. Is you have to actually face the disability rather than just pushing it aside.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Boyd. Thank you very much.
I hope one of the things that we really want you to take away from here are some practical skills. So, and I think that the last scene actually took a direction that we hadn't anticipated. So far, you should have the practical skill of, if you don't know what somebody can do, have a conversation and say, what can you do? And remember how Dr. Paul had us standing up and doing those really crazy things? Well, if you could do those in public, it's not even as crazy just to ask somebody, hey, what is it that, how can I help you, or what help do you need? Are you able to do, what kinds of things are you able to do on this project? What do you need me to help out with? So in other words, what I think we'd like you to leave with are some very practical kinds of skills. And a lot of times, even you don't run, I hope, you don't run into the really big kind of incidents that you did in the classroom. A lot of times, I call them like drive-bys, they're like drive-by insults. They go, whoa. And you go, what was that? That doesn't feel good, and I certainly feel uncomfortable. And in academia, we actually have a name for that. They're called microaggressions. And and you could call them unconscious bias, but those are the little slights and insults that occur on a daily basis that can undermine an individual's competency and their individuality. And these microaggressions oftentimes leave us speechless until you're riding home. I know for those who know what I'm talking about, until you're riding home, you can go, I should have said. What we're going to be doing is we're going to go through some right as soon as I stop talking. And we're going to be asking you for some very practical ways or things that you could have said. And so by rehearsing this, the next time they happen to you, you'll know what to say. Or the next time you see it being done, you'll know how to respond. So take it away, Devon.
Microaggression number 1.
Can I say in this order?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Watch carefully.
All right. Microaggression number 2. So, Kenjo, Ibrahim, I need 2 ideas for a group project to give to the students. I know you guys are GAs, so I know you got some mad ideas. I just need something. I need something to present to them today for.
Well, it's kind of complex, so we can do like an active part and then like a verbal part of the class discussion.
Microaggression number 3. Go ahead. I'm a superstar. I'm in every scene.
So Devon, we got a meeting about that thing, okay?
Okay.
We really need to talk about it. So can you be in my office at 3 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay,
3
and I
o'clock.
don't want any of that CP time. You better be there at 3.
Okay. All right, those are 3 microaggressions. What does CP time mean? Anybody know? Wow. You guys are, raise your hand if you do not know what CP time is. Wow. How about that? That's what I learned. Okay, raise your hand if you do know. What does it mean?
Color people time.
Color people time. Okay, cool. So we talk about microaggressions. Give me some.
Can you explain what that means?
Color people time? Oh, I'm sorry. So color people time. There's a stereotype that people of color, mainly black people, arrive to things late. So the comment CP time is, she said 3 o'clock. So CP time would be like 3:15, 3:30. So that's a stereotype. Not all of them do that. Not all of us do that. So not everyone does not do that. So yes. So when it comes to the interventions or those small things, let's kind of go through them really quick. What are some of the interventions you would do? I guess with the first scene, with Ibrahim and Betty walking across the stage. If you saw that happen, what would you do? What would the intervention look like?
Could you demonstrate one more time?
Sure.
I think they got it.
Oh.
I think you got it. You got it.
What would it look like? Yes.
You could talk louder. I don't think they can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, you just, I got spoke to the woman after, and be like, I'm not sure if you know this, she does, but kind of clutched her person and walked past that, and, thought it wasn't cool.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like in that situation, it also depends on the setting. Like, I know me, if it was me and one other person on the street, no matter what they looked like or who they were, I'd probably grab my bag just because it's one other person. But like, if it's in the middle of campus with everyone around, and then you just see like a guy walk by and then you do that, like that's kind of thing.
Now, let me challenge you on it. If that person was a female, would you do it?
As a female, no, because I feel like more not threatened. I just don't know a better term for it. But I like males, like they have more like I guess strength over me. Like that, like.
Okay. What do you all think about that? Yeah. Probably. Okay. 1, 2, go ahead.
I'm not sure how much you can do in that situation because if you're not obvious, you want I agree with them. This has happened to me. Like, nothing was said to me loud, and people like walk away, and I just laugh. Like in a situation like that, it's not even point to go because it's I knew a friend of mine that went up to a person and was like, "Yo, I'm really gonna why did you walk away?" And there's some people are just so close-minded that I just laugh and like I don't care.
It might scare them more.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it
go
went up to
off and they're like, some people have this, they're so close-minded, so I just laugh. I don't mind that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. I see your hand. You go first. No, you first.
Her?
Yes, you first. Then her.
I don't agree that you should, like, saying, oh, if it was a man, you'd be more scared. I mean, in New York City, there's crazy people everywhere. It could be a woman that attacks you. So, for me, I mean, I don't punch my first to anyone, but saying, like, oh, if it was a man or a woman, I don't know, I disagree with that. It could be anyone that robs or attacks you. Maybe that's just because of where I'm from or something, but.
That's actually funny. I spent a lot of time here too. And on that note, like if you're the kind of person who gets scared because someone's walking by you, like you shouldn't be holding a purse in the first place. Like you should be stuff on your person. And, you know,
seems like there's a line between caution and stereotype.
Yeah, and I don't know where it is.
When are you supposed to be cautious and when are you stereotype? You know, that's, I guess, the battle. Yeah.
I just don't know what punching you first actually does. Like, so
Make it harder.
I
didn't pick up. Like, you wanna like, make sure you like stand yourself.
I like start holding your purse, like, I don't know, like it's on you, it's on your person, like having it on your shoulder, having it like this. Someone wants to take it off and you're like,
But is that then there lies the difference between caution and microaggression? The fact that if you're holding if she's holding your purse and she just happens to be clutching it anyway, regardless if she's not gonna think she's gonna get robbed. But then she happens to see a black person coming down the street and she double clutches, switches arms, and takes an alternate route of the direct line. Is that caution, or is it, or is that the microaggression?
And I was wondering, exactly, I was wondering if someone was going to notice that she didn't just walk straight, she did let me walk, let me put more space in between. So yes, I'm right about the second.
It's like if someone wants to rob, Betty, at that point they're going to rob her. But the thing is that during when she was here, it was how she acted.
Go ahead, Kendra, you want to say something? You can say something.
I think there's two issues to consider. I hear a lot of gender discussion right now, but it's also color that you bring in students of color. The other situation is that you might even still see the same thing happening if it was a black girl with a purse and a black man walks by. I think this black men in particular are a group that do face these sort of microaggressions more frequently, no matter who is reacting to them.
Can I just say, context is also an issue, and I'd really love to hear the group talk about this. If you were because one of the things, I am in the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and very oftentimes I talk to students of color on campus, and I would say probably the majority of the young men of color on campus say that this happened to them crossing campus. That there was a young woman or a faculty member or somebody who either double clutched a bag, moved a backpack from one side to the other. And so the question, I think, is, I think we can talk about it in general and in the world, but then it also happens here, and it could happen with somebody that you were walking with. And I guess in that case, I would really love to hear some interventions. What could you say, or what, and then using intervener ally, is there something that you think that we could do?
Well, I mean, I get that point that even on campus, it shouldn't happen in the middle of the day. But even this year, a girl got robbed at the West Campus train station by a black man, I don't know if he was black or white, but by somebody. And it's like, if I was a woman, I would take precaution just because, violent crime is associated with men across the world, almost 100% most of the time. Let's say 85 to 90% of violent crime is associated with men. I would agree. I would move away a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to pick up on that. You just said when you started your comment that you assumed that it was a black man, but then backtrack that statement and said that you really weren't sure if it was a black man. And I think that is the point that we're getting at, whether or not it's right or wrong, that we're socialized to use an upper level conjuncture, but socialized to believe that black men do this. And I think it's also interesting that came out of a male participant where that I would have been less surprised if it came out of a female.
And let me also add too, not to say that the person is racist for doing that, or a person is racist or prejudiced. It's just we are acculturated, we are socialized to do those things. That it comes off real easy. That may be our thought process or our behavior. Yes. Thank you for that point. Thank you for that comment.
I think that thing that she just pointed out, I think that was one of those things that I was talking about earlier, where you say things you don't really mean at first, and you just kind of come out and you're like, well, crap, I shouldn't have said somebody's dress would cause me to grab my purse, because I love my purse. So like, I would have a rough time if I lost it.
So let's go back. So do we just, how many times do we let things just roll off our tongue? How many times do we, oh, I made a mistake, I didn't mean to? So,
Well, as you can tell, we fixed it as soon as you said it.
but the first was, and with anyone too, with anyone, if that's the first thing that they have come off of the professor's tongue or whomever, what do we need to do so that does not continue to happen? Because it seems to me, at particularly this university, it's rolling off everybody's tongue all the time. So what do we do?
I also think that
What's the intervention?
social media shows us more of, like, I know that it probably, I don't know what the stats are, but it shows us more of like black males more so than white males attacking. Even if they're even. I've seen more black males only because that's what social media is showing me. You know, not saying that that's true or false, that's what I'm saying.
Right, and that helps with, that drives our beliefs, our behaviors. Right, but again, it's not, are we saying that, oh, I do this because Twitter told me to behave this way, or I do this because the news told me to behave this way, or I do this because Instagram put all these pictures on here, so I'm this way because Instagram taught me. Like, that's what we're essentially, by not blaming, but by pulling that out. It does have imagery, social media, all that stuff plays a very important part in how we, in our social behaviors. But it seems to me that a lot of us use that as an excuse to keep doing it. Yeah.
I would think that rolling off the time is maybe dangerous in itself as well. Because even in this kind of setting where we're talking about this stuff, that slip still happens. It's like, if you're making that slip when you're talking and forming like an organized thought, it's definitely something that it's like under the surface, so it's definitely doesn't mean all the time. If you're gonna have it like come out kind of casually in conversation, it definitely affects your like day to day, just like as you go through our life.
And that's what I get, and that's what I mean when I say, what are we doing? We need to think about those slips, those slights that we do all the time. If it is social media that's doing that, then maybe we should stop with social media. If it's social media making you say these things, or making you responsible for saying these things, and those things are bad, maybe we should stop with social media. I don't know. Yeah. Her first.
Well, I think like we can't just stop social media, but I think a way we can like help alleviate the problem is by calling it out every time it happens.
Right.
And you don't have to be rude about it, but if you call it out every time, then somewhere down the line, you'll say something and you'll be like, I can't say that next time, and then you won't say it next time.
And I don't mean stop social media. I'm talking about if I'm a person, if Ibrahim came to me and said, yeah, I do this because social media, then I'm going to say, Ibrahim, maybe we should stop using social media because it's causing you to do these things. So that's what I mean, not like stop it all. Stop all at once. Okay, let's go here. Yes, sir. Ibrahim?
Yeah. Oh, just an example you said. I wouldn't say stop social media. I would just say like it's something about the persona. If you were raised in so way that social media affects you, and I see that as weak. And I don't like my virtues and the way I was raised. Even if you told me that now saying something is right, I would say it because that's not the way I was raised. And I think some people are just those virtues were absent when they were growing up with their family.
I don't want to say it's like social media. I just think it's like what we're conditioned. Like with him right now, it could have been that he just saw it was a black man and a white woman that walked across the stage, and then he's comparing it to an event that just happened. So he's just assuming it's a black man. Like, I don't think it's necessarily that he thinks that only black men do that crime or something like that. And it's also like if you hear on the news that 98 out of 100 crimes were black men and only 2 were white men, then what are you going to, like, if a crime happens, what are you going to assume it is? Like, that's just,
I don't know. What does everyone else think about that? I would love to know that piece. What does everyone else think about that? Let's go with, I saw you, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kendall.
2 parts.
And then I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
One, I was looking at you, so I don't know who I'm speaking to, but for whoever made the comment that we are talking about right now, just know that everybody does
campus, and I am more likely to be treated in an oppressive way from a white person than I am a person of color. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to look at every white person and think, oh, they're going to treat me oppressive. So just because the majority does this, or they see the majority does it, exactly what you said, I don't treat the whole that way. It's just on an individual basis. So that's what we need to think about here.
There's so much more we could talk about, and what we've really been talking about is making you aware. And one of the things that I hope, as we draw this to a conclusion, is I would really love for you to think about something for me for a second. I would like think about, here's the question. Think about your classes right down in Villanova. For you, how many of you are the only person of your racial or ethnic background in a class? All right, put your hands up way high. All right. So I want everybody to look around. And so now we can put your hands down. All right. And here's the point. When these things happen, when these microaggressions happen, when topics are raised that unfairly pointed towards somebody, the point is that it's not just up to the people who had their hands raised. If you care about these issues, and I know if most of you are freshmen, I read your essays when you were coming into school, you told me you cared about them, so I'm going to hold you to that. So if you do care about them, then for those students who have their hands up, you should, even though you may not share their racial background, they should know that they've got some allies in the class. And it's not always a matter of calling the teacher out. Maybe it's just a matter of going up to the person after the class and saying, hey man, that was really rough. Or, I don't think that was quite right. I'm in your corner. Just to know that somebody else saw what you saw, felt what you felt, that could go so far in really helping to promote the kind of community that we all want here at Villanova. And so that what we are doing then we are interrupting business as usual and really beginning to act in a way that Martin Luther King called for when he talked about his beloved community. I can't tell you how happy I am that you came to this session and that you participated. And I hope that you all came away with at least one or two good strategies that you can implement. We didn't even get to our racist joke one. So you're going to have to come back to another session when we talk about it. Yeah. We're going to have to come back to either another session, or you will see that you can register for